She was dumped like garbage by her husband. But what happened next shocked the entire city. Dove from the filth of betrayal to the palace of love. Witness the unbelievable true tale of how a homeless girl won the heart of a billionaire. Not with beauty, but with unbreakable spirit. In the heart of a bustling African city, where towering buildings cast shadows over dusty alleys, a frail girl named Amina sat huddled behind a rusted dumpster. Her torn hijab fluttered weakly in the wind, barely shielding her from the flies and filth around her. Her body ached from sleeping on concrete. Her heart ached even more. She wasn't always like this. Just a year ago, Amina was a glowing young bride, marrying a man she thought was the love of her life, Haroun. He was charming, well-dressed, and came from a respectable family. Her father had passed away years ago, and her mother, who struggled to make ends meet, believed Haroun was a blessing from the heavens. They celebrated a modest wedding, neighbors clapping to the beat of drums, women ululating in joy, Amina's eyes shining with hope. But hope can be a dangerous thing. Within months, Haroun showed his true colors. He was cruel, controlling, often gone for days. Then he began bringing other women home, mocking Amina's silence. He'd toss money at her like a beggar, reminding her that without him, she was nothing. One night, during a heavy rainstorm, Haroun stormed in drunk. His breath reeked of cheap liquor, and his words were crueler than the thunder cracking outside. "You think you're special, Amina," he slurred. "You're trash. Even the stray dogs outside deserve more than you." Before she could respond, he grabbed her arm and dragged her out, barefoot and in her nightclothes. He screamed. She begged. But he didn't care. He threw her into the back of his truck and drove into the dead of night. He stopped near the city landfill, where the stench of decay choked the air. Without a word, he pushed her out and tossed a black trash bag beside her. "Here's your home now," he sneered. "Where garbage belongs." Then he drove off. And that's how Amina ended up behind that dumpster, shivering, alone, with only tears for company. Not far from that very alley, a sleek black Land Cruiser cut through the early morning haze. Inside sat Mr. Sefu Mwangi, a 38-year-old billionaire whose name echoed in boardrooms from Lagos to Nairobi. Owner of one of Africa's largest tech companies, Sefu was known not just for his fortune, but his humble heart. He was born in the slums himself, raised by a single mother who sold boiled eggs by the roadside. Sefu never forgot his roots. Every weekend, he personally oversaw charity drives in the inner city, distributing food, paying school fees for orphans, and investing in shelters. That morning something felt different. He had intended to take a different route to his office, but at the last minute, he asked his driver to detour through the industrial district, a place he hadn't visited in years. "Sir, are you sure?" his driver asked, glancing at the faded warehouses. "Yes," Sefu replied. "Something's pulling me there." As they passed the dumpsters, his sharp eyes caught movement. "Stop," he ordered. The driver hit the brakes. Sefu stepped out. There behind the dumpster he saw her. At first he thought she was a ghost, her skin pale, eyes sunken, hair matted. But then she stirred. She was real, and barely alive. He rushed to her side. "Miss, can you hear me?" he asked gently, kneeling beside her. Amina tried to speak, but her lips trembled. A faint whisper escaped. "Please, help me." He removed his coat and wrapped it around her, shielding her from the morning chill. His heart broke as he lifted her up. She weighed almost nothing. "Let's get her to the hospital now," he barked at the driver. The private hospital Sefu took her to was nothing like anything Amina had ever seen. Clean, warm, filled with the scent of fresh linen instead of rot. She was bathed, fed, and given fresh clothes. The doctors said she was malnourished and emotionally traumatized, but strong-willed. For 3 days, Sefu stayed by her side. He didn't ask questions. He just sat, offering her food, warm words, and the kind of silence that doesn't judge. On the 4th day, Amina finally spoke her name. "Amina," she whispered. Sefu smiled. "It's a beautiful name." Amina studied his face, unsure what to make of this man who had treated her with such dignity. She had been discarded like garbage, and yet this stranger looked at her like she mattered. Why are you helping me?" she asked quietly. Sefyu paused. "Because someone once helped me when I had nothing," he said. "And because no human being belongs in the trash." As the days passed, Amina began to heal. With proper food and rest, her strength returned, and so did her voice. One evening, sitting under the hospital veranda as the sun melted into the horizon, she told Sefyu everything. About Haroun. About her mother, who died shortly after her marriage. About being thrown out like trash. Sefyu clenched his jaw in anger. "That man should rot in prison," he muttered. "No," Amina said softly. "I don't want revenge. I just want to live." And for the first time in months she smiled. A small, timid smile, but a smile nonetheless. Sefyu looked at her, not with pity, but with admiration. Beneath the pain, she had a strength that inspired him. She had survived hell and still had room in her heart for peace. Amina moved into a recovery home funded by Sefyu's charity. There, she met other women who had faced abuse and abandonment. She began helping them, cooking, cleaning, offering comfort. She took sewing classes. She read books. She learned to laugh again. One day, Sefyu visited the center and found her leading a workshop on embroidery. "You've become a leader," he said with a grin. Mina laughed. "I've become human again." He took her to dinner that night. Not to a five-star restaurant, but to a street food stall, where they shared grilled maize and roasted meat by the roadside. "It's the little things," she said, licking her fingers. "I missed this." Sefyu watched her mesmerized. There was no makeup on her face. No jewelry. But she glowed. And that's when he knew. He wasn't just helping a stranger. He was falling in love. Sefyu began spending more time with Amina. He introduced her to his business team, encouraged her to start her own small tailoring brand, and even offered to sponsor her education. But Amina hesitated. "I don't want your money, Sefyu," she said one day. He looked surprised. "It's not charity. I believe in you." She sighed. I don't want to be someone's burden again. I want to stand on my own feet." Sefyu nodded, respecting her wishes. But deep inside, his feelings grew deeper. So he waited for the day she would be ready. Not to be saved, but to be loved. It had been 6 months since Amina was found behind that dumpster. 6 months since she'd been tossed away like rubbish by the man she once loved. But now, Amina walked tall. Her small tailoring business, Threads of Grace, was gaining attention in the local markets. Women lined up to buy her hand-stitched fabrics embroidered with Swahili proverbs and African symbols. Amina didn't just sew clothes. She stitched stories, healing, and hope into every piece. She had rented a tiny apartment above her shop, lived simply, and paid her own rent. When the community center invited her to speak at a women's empowerment event, she stood on stage, no longer trembling. "I was thrown away like I had no value," she told the crowd. "But value is not given by men, it's found within. And I found mine." Sefyu, seated in the front row, watched her speak. His heart swelled with pride and something else. Love. But he still hadn't told her. Not yet. One humid morning, while Amina was adjusting fabric on a mannequin, the bell above her door jingled. She looked up and froze. There stood Haroun. No longer in a sleek car or shiny shoes. He looked disheveled. His eyes were bloodshot. His beard unkempt. His shirt clung to his sweaty body. "Amina," he croaked. "You're alive." She didn't flinch. Her hands remained steady on the cloth. "You look surprised," she said coldly. After that night, I didn't know if you made it." He turned slowly. "You didn't care if I made it." Haroun stepped forward. I lost everything. My business collapsed. The bank took my house. I was arrested for fraud. When I came out, I had no one." Amina stared at him. "And you came here for what?" "Forgiveness." He fell to his knees. "Please. I'm hungry. I have nowhere to go. Just help me eat. A long silence followed. Then, Amina reached into her purse, pulled out a 500-shilling note, and placed it on the counter. You may take this, she said. But that's all. I forgave you the night I stopped being your victim. But you will never again be a part of my life. Haroun looked up, ashamed. You've changed. She gave a slight smile. Yes, I have. He left without another word. And just like that, the door to her past finally closed. 2 weeks later, Sefiu invited Amina to a private dinner on the rooftop of his foundation's building. The city lights twinkled like stars below. Lanterns swayed in the evening breeze. Soft Congolese jazz hummed in the background. Amina wore a simple yellow dress, handmade of course. Sefiu had never seen her more radiant. He cleared his throat nervously. Amina, I wanted to tell you something. She looked at him with those deep, wise eyes. Go ahead. I have watched you rise from pain and rebuild your life with grace. You didn't just survive, you transformed. You taught me that even someone like me, with all the riches, still had more to learn about strength and dignity. Amina tilted her head, curious. He continued. I never wanted to rescue you. I only wanted to see you shine. But somewhere along the way, I fell in love with the way you see the world. With your spirit. With you. He stood and pulled a tiny velvet box from his coat pocket. Opened it. Inside was a silver ring. Delicate, not flashy. I don't ask for your answer today. I know you value your independence. But I'd be honored if one day you'd let me be the man who walks beside you. Not in front, not behind. Amina looked at the ring, then at him. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she whispered. Sefiu, I used to think love meant surrender. That it meant being owned. But you've shown me that real love sets you free. She touched his hand gently. I won't say yes now. But I won't say no either. Let's walk together. Let me love you slowly. Let me feel safe. Sefiu smiled. That's all I could ever ask. Months passed. Together, Amina and Sefiu built more than just a relationship. They built hope. She expanded her tailoring shop into a small factory, employing homeless and abused women. Each woman had her own story. Each was given not just a job but a family. Sefiu introduced her to his board members, not as his girlfriend, but as a partner in vision. He set up a foundation in her name, the Amina Initiative, aimed at rescuing women from domestic violence across Africa. When they finally married, it wasn't a grand event in a marble hall. It was under a baobab tree in her old neighborhood. The same place her mother once sold peanuts by the roadside. Children danced. Women sang. Sefiu wore a cream-colored agbada, and Amina wore a white dress made by her own hands, stitched with gold thread in the shape of butterflies, symbols of transformation. As they exchanged vows, Amina said softly, I was once thrown away like garbage. But today I stand here not as someone rescued, but as someone reborn. Thank you for loving me, not because I was broken, but because I chose to heal. The crowd erupted in applause. Years later, when people asked how Amina went from sleeping behind a dumpster to running one of Africa's most respected women's empowerment NGOs, she always gave the same answer. I wasn't saved by a billionaire. I was seen by one. And then I saved myself. She never forgot where she came from. And every time she passed that alley where she was once abandoned, she stopped, not to cry but to leave a flower. For the girl she once was. And for the girl who never gave up.